I'm going to be talking to you about Apex and the future of enterprise development. Now, when I first started there at the end of Monty's presentation, I asked a few of you how many of you are using Apex, and a few have used Apex 4, and then a lot less people have used Apex 5, which is great, because this is almost a business/development intro to Apex and some of the cool things you can do. And I'm only going to be showing you a subset. There's a lot of interesting things you can do. Now, if you want to follow along or you want to get the slides after, they're actually live online right now. If you go to bit.ly, and let me try and blow. I don't know if this won't work. Can you guys all read that at the back? Okay. It's bit.ly / I made this really easy for you, VANOG, or Vancouver Oracle User Group 16. So if you can't remember the VANOG stuff, just remember bit.ly and it's there. Or you can just Google me on GitHub and it's on one of my repositories. So there's two things. There's one is the slides, which what you're seeing, and the other one is a presentation, which is the actual source of everything. The reason why I say this is sometimes there's some links and things I show and people are frantically scribbling them down. You don't need to. Everything is in here. It's all hyperlinked, etc. So anything that's in these slides are going to be there. Nothing in the demos aren't. Is that clear? Okay. And this is all my contact information. I'll show it to you at the end. Now, when I first was talking thinking about this presentation, I talked to Frank, and we were thinking about ideas that would be good for this group. One of the things was enterprise development, and something that's really been popular lately, and Gartner wrote about this, is something called Bimodal IT. Now, I'm not the expert on it, but what it is it's a two-mode IT development. And essentially, you have the traditional large enterprise development where it's slow-moving, but very large systems and expensive development. And then you have more modern-day development, which is fast, rapid-changing development. And an example I think is really good is if you compare banks to Google. Banks don't change quickly for good reason, right? There's nothing wrong with that. They're a very slow-moving thing because of very important information. They can't afford to make a mistake. A rounding error in a bank can make some of you guys a millionaire and make some of you very poor. But Google can afford it. If a search algorithm isn't 100% correct, it's not gonna do much, right? And that's the way to think of it. Now, when we go with Oracle, a lot of people think that Oracle is that first option, because not many young kids these days saying, yes, I want to be an Oracle developer. They all want to be Node developers. They want to develop with Angular, all those other cool things. And the reason why is because Oracle has this notion attached to it, or the stigma, that it's got two things, time and cost. It's very timely to implement and develop, and it's very costly. Am I wrong on any of this for some of your perspectives? No? I'm in the Oracle reps. I shouldn't have said this. I thought you two guys were in the front. I could say whatever I wanted, but apparently not. But this is the mentality, or the at least perceived perception of Oracle. And I think we can all agree on this, right? But the reality is it's not true. Yes, Oracle is a very stable, very secure environment that works in very large organizations, which is great. However, they now have this fast-paced development tool called Application Express, or Apex for short. And everyone forgets about it. And this is the cool factor. This is Oracle's one of their hidden gems. And for those that don't have Apex or haven't used Apex, even on the licensing part, it's done properly. It is, I can't say free, it is a no-cost option to the database. And what that means is if you have the database and you're licensed for the database, you automatically get Apex. And what Apex is, it's a rapid application development tool. Another quick way to think of it is you can take your old PL SQL reports and things like that and put them online or on the web, whether it's internal or external, very quickly. Is that clear? Okay. And can you guys read this note? I might have to read it for you because my sister, this is where I think really Apex excels. And my sister sent this from her daughter's, so it's my niece's grade 3 class where the grade 3 teacher was writing to the IT person. I'm going to read this for those that can't see in the back. It says, may have a new thingamajig for the end of the projector cable. Mine has disappeared. This is a very vague requirement. Right? What's a thingamajig? Is it the power cable, the video projector cable? It could be anything. However, this is not very uncommon for developers to get this sort of request, this random request. And when you're developing in this slow monolithic environment, this sort of request can become very expensive because one developer might take this and say, sure, I'll develop a power cord, for instance. And they spend 10 weeks doing that, when really what they needed was the VGA adapter. And this is where Apex comes in, is you can rapidly prototype and rapidly build applications and get them back to the users very quickly at a cheaper cost. And if it's not what the user wants, then you can at least get that feedback. Have you guys all seen that slide? It's a little cartoon thing where it shows like what the client wants, what the developer wants, like a swing set, and it ends up into this big mash. Well, that's what happens with very large systems, right? One person wants this very simple swing set, but it gets dispersed. Where Apex comes in is you can do quick, repetitive development cycles and then everyone can see those stages as they go along. Just coding in Oracle, traditional Oracle and PL SQL can be hard sometimes. So today's agenda, I'm going to do a intro. I've kind of done part of that. I'm going to talk about Apex, or give Apex and rapid application development, show you guys a quick example of it. I'm then going to talk about the future of the internet, because that was part of the title, and it's very relevant. Again, Oracle has this very slow, monolithic feel, yes, or really stigma attached to it, where it shouldn't, right? Apex can play with all the new age stuff that's out there, and I want to show that live in action. And then I'll wrap up with some questions, and we can go, depending on the time, and Adrian kicks me out, I'll talk about whatever you guys want, or answer any question that, if I can, if you want to talk about other things. So a bit about myself. I'm an Oracle ACE director. I've been developing with Apex for over 10 years. I've written a couple books. I'm following Monty's footsteps. He was president, and now I'm a VP at ODTUG. And I also founded something called Aura Open Source. If you've ever developed with Oracle, there's a lot of really cool tools out there. Adrian's an active participant on there. Highly recommend check it out. Now, in terms of my work history, what's relevant of who am I to tell you about how fast Apex is and how slow different systems are? Well, these are some of the places I've worked before. I've worked in some small and medium-sized businesses that work in a very quick pace. I've also worked at very large universities. So things like Stanford, Ohio Tech, Brown University, they have larger, slower systems. And I've also worked at large international oil and gas companies and pharmaceuticals. Believe it or not, the pharmaceutical company that I worked at wanted Apex, and we pushed it in really, really quickly. And so this Apex tool fits in for both these modes of development. Now, similar to Monty, I see Hills at the Insum party here. I work at Insum. Though Insum is based in Montreal, I'm based out of Calgary. Insum is the largest North American Apex consulting company. We also do PL SQL development as well. You can check us out at insum.ca, and that's our Twitter account. Just talking about Twitter, how many people here have Twitter accounts? Okay, guys, time to, I don't want to, I'll say it as it is. It's time. It's time. So get a Twitter account, and does anyone here, not you guys who know what it is, know what like the official hashtag is for Apex? No one? Yeah, it's not Apex, it's hashtag ORCLAPEX. So once you get on Twitter, that's like a little homework assignment for you that aren't on there. We're talking about the future, right? Time to go there. Sign up for a Twitter account. And the reason why, jokes aside, is there's so much content that goes out on Twitter, and you're missing out on it. Because a lot of the things like Monty talked about, this guy Jeff Smith, they're constantly posting. And you can't get everything, but at least if you can start getting snippets of it, you're going to learn some of these cool new tools. And some of the stuff I showed you just before, I've learned on Twitter. Right? That's a very good learning platform. And Insum's we're going to be tweeting out some more articles and things, so it's definitely something to follow. So this is a lot, as much of the slides. I'm going to go straight into demo. And this is really to highlight some of the cool features that Apex has for those that have never seen it or only really touched a bit. And those that have played with Apex 4, it kind of shows some of the UI things you can do with 5. Now, to give the business perspective of this, I'm developing an app for an HR manager. So think about it that you're a manager you work in an organization, you're in the HR team, and we just want a quick little dashboard. So I'm going to put together some reports and show you how easy it is in Apex and the rich functionality you can get with very little effort. Is that clear? One other thing, does everyone here know the emp and dep table? No, it's okay. If you don't know, I'm going to explain it now. Okay, so some people didn't nod their head. Just in case, it's fine. The emp table, EMP, is for short for employees, and you have an employee name, salary, manager, etc. And dep is short for department, and it's your department name, department number. I think it's location as well. So it's very, very, can everyone visualize that, right? You have departments and then employees belong to a department. This entire application and demo is going to work off that principle. All right. So I'm going to, now can everyone see this? Now I've got a bit of cheat sheets here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is your Apex dashboard. I won't cover it too much in detail, but let's log in. And right away, you can see this out of the bat. You get a very nice, rich login screen. And there's nothing in our application. So let's go and let's create a report, and I want to create a form to view all the employees and edit them. Very, very basic thing. And I'll just name this EMPs for employees. I'm really flying through these steps to emphasize how quick and easy it is to set this up. Right? I'm just going through next, emp edit. Let's do modal. And let's just add them all in. I'm not doing any pretty names or anything like that. We're just trying to hack this together to see how quick it was. So if I refresh my page, oh, I have to click on employees. And now we got this nice list of all our employees and departments. And it's a nice feature-rich application or feature-rich thing. I can also edit any one of them and edit any of their information in a nice, simple pop-up dialog. Very little effort. So it's very low cost to the development team, but you guys can put this out to the end users very quickly. Now, I'm going to just change my report ever so slightly to match what I want to do in this demo. Okay, so let's just refresh this. Now, what I showed you is quick and easy, and it's nice, but it still isn't adding full value. You could just put the report together in Excel and email it to your HR manager. There's not much difference you've done here. But let's start playing around with the interactive reports. So how many people here know what interactive reports are? Few? Okay, this is good. So interactive reports are like your standard report that you see on a web page on steroids. You saw that I've done very little. I've done pretty much no programming. I wrote one query, which I'm sure all of you guys can knock out in 5 seconds. With no additional time, and a business user can do this, a developer can do this, now you can add a lot of additional functionality. So the first thing is, I can see how much each person makes on their salary. Right? And I could order it, but it's still not really giving a visual of the spread of the salary. And I as an end user, or the request comes in saying, I want a chart for this. So I can go in and I can format and add a chart. And let's just put the label as employee name. The value is their salary, and we have to choose a sum. I mean, the sum is going to be, because it's only themselves. You can now see a quick visual of all the employees and their salaries. Right? And this can start helping. This is what business users love. And as developers, this can get very expensive to do manually, but now you can let the business user do the work for you, right? If you haven't noticed from the little after follow-up with Monty, I don't like to do a lot of work. The less work I do, the better. And the more time I have for other things. So here's something where you can give the end user a very powerful basic report and give them powerful functionality. And I'm actually going to go and save this report. And because I'm a developer right now, I can save it as a primary report. And what this means is I can set this up, and then when someone else logs in, and I'm going to show you this after, they're going to see the same changes. So you can make this available to everyone. So you do this once and everyone gets access to it. All right, now this is an employee view, but what if I want to view more of a departmental structure? So I'm going to go and format and then do a control break on the department. And this is now a better view to see all the data, the employees that fall for each department, right? Accounting, research, I forget, sales, and I think there's one more, maybe not. And this is, again, something end users can do. But here's a really cool thing. So again, this is, let's just save this report, default report, and I'll just put this as departments. What if we're doing, I mean, you guys all hear what's happening in Alberta. We're getting crushed out there in the economy. And no one, have you guys not noticed this?
It's all over Twitter.
Yeah, I guess that's why. Yeah, well, that's what one of the MPs recommended. That's another story. But so what if we said, and the reality is in Alberta right now, companies are looking at their employees and saying, are we overpaying? Can we cut costs, right? It's not a fun question, but they have to ask. So what if the manager said, well, I want to see all the different jobs, and are there some departments where we're paying the same job, the same type of job more than other departments? So for instance, are we paying our, well, can't have two presidents, but are we paying our clerks the same, or some clerks making a lot more and some clerks making a lot less? This is actually, you would, as a developer, would have to write up this report, but with interactive reports, they can actually do this directly in line without having to go to Excel or do something else, and it's called pivots. So I'm going to go and I'm going to format, and I'm going to create a pivot query here. And the pivot column is going to be, I just want to make sure I got this right. I always screw it up. I see some mumbling in the back. You guys getting excited? Is this exciting for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Department name, and yeah, I know. Don't show the HR people this, right?
Fictitious data, guys.
Yeah. And let's just say the average. I'm just doing the average salary, right? You can use this for whatever you want. Salary. And look at this report. It's very basic, but now we can see in the accounting department, of course, they're the ones with the money, the clerks make a lot more than in research and sales. Why is that? Now, they can go and explore that in further detail, but at least this is a very powerful report for HR people. Again, don't give this to your HR department, because if they find you're making a lot more than other developers and other departments, maybe not. But you can see the managers are well spread. President salesman doesn't really work too well because there's only one. But again, this is some area that they can target. So now you've turned data into information very quickly, very easily, all throughout Apex, and you've really done nothing, right? You've done so little work. And I'm gonna save this report again. You'll see why I'm driving this all home. So I'm gonna log out, and I'm gonna log in as Frank. Frank, I hope you don't mind me using your password. He doesn't even know he has an account set up. And so this is an entirely different user. Remember how So I logged in as me, and now I'm logging in as Frank. So this user can now see these two report, the first employee view and the chart. And now I can go to the departments, and I can see the pivots, except the charts, and the static stuff. So this is really good because you may give a power user the ability to create reports. So you're giving someone the ability to do your job for you, and you guys look really good. That's the great part about this. I'm just going to log back in. I don't think it really makes a difference, but you guys get the power behind that. How are we doing on time here? Okay. All right. Next thing is, so we've got this employees list here. Now we're just going to create a simple dashboard on the homepage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a list. So we just want to see all the departments and how many employees we have in each department right now, because sometimes that's an important number for people. Again, I'm going to blow by some of the actual how to do this just to show you that it's very quick. And the query I have is just a simple select from departments. Let's go to page 1. And I'm going to add a new region in here. And let's just call it depths. We'll create a list, and we'll do departments. I think I have a spelling mistake in there. And we'll do badge list. And all of a sudden now, right when they log in to the screen, they'll see this nice report with all the departments and the number of employees in each department. Yes, I did blow by a lot of things, but the important thing is that you can do this very simply. You do have to learn Apex a bit on this one, but these can be very powerful, rich features. And another cool thing is, because we're talking about Apex and the future, one thing that shows a very feature-rich and good development platform is the ability for plugins. And what plugins really are other developers contributing to the same platform. No developer, no organization that puts out a whole programming language has the ability to think of every single solution. So if you look at jQuery, you look at even Excel, right? You can get add-ons for Excel because Excel can't solve every single problem for you. You have to have add-ons for it. And so in Apex, you have something called plugins. Maybe I'm going to go a bit off track here, but again, this is really good resolution here. But if you go to apex.world, this is not in the slide, so you might want to write this one down. And you click on plugins over here. There is a ton of plugins out there. I'm not going to go through them all, but they all do different things that are not built in by default in Apex, because Apex can't solve every single problem. So if it doesn't exist in Apex, maybe you look over here and see if it exists. That said, I've downloaded and installed one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new region here, and I'm going to show you what it's a D3 plugin. So who here knows what D3 is? A few people. It's just this powerful UI engine to display data, if I'm going to really simplify the summary of it. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take this report, and this was all based on some sample query they had. And if I refresh, hopefully, knock on wood, everything went well. Yeah. This now shows all, and this is all from a plugin, right? All I did was I copied and pasted their sample, and I think I changed 2 lines. I'm not going to walk that through with you, but they did all the work. Whoever, I think it was Daniel in Germany did this. And this shows all your employees, and the bigger the circle, the more money they make, and the arrows show how they're all linked to one another. Really cool functionality. Would take me days to develop. But the good thing is there's someone much smarter than I am who wrote this and manages it. And now you can do it for free very simply. And that's really, that shows how feature-rich Apex is, because you can never say, well, Apex doesn't do it. Well, now you have the ability to either use someone else's code that they've done it, or write your own plugin to do things. And again, you can move things around, you can link these, and I mean, it's really not doing much, but when you have larger data sets, this can be a real wow factor for business users. Yes?
Is there a system of verifying whether these plugins are bug-free or not harmful on this, or is it's just like GitHub and anything goes?
It's a very good question. So I've got to repeat the question because we're recording it. So the question is, how do we know the validity of a plugin if their security vulnerabilities hasn't been tested? There is no great answer for that right now. The reason why is no one wants to take responsibility of it. Oracle doesn't want to do it because they're in a legal liability issue, right? If they verify, say something's good, and there's a security vulnerability, they could get sued. If no other organization has stepped up to do it. However, I can say behind the scenes, what we're doing right now is we're talking. There's a company out in the UK called Rex, R-E-X-C, or R-E-C-X, and they are security experts that also got involved with Apex, and they have an Apex, like a security tool that you can do to validate your Apex application. We're looking to them so that every time someone uploads a plugin, it gets routed through their system to validate at least some security aspects. It doesn't take care of everything, but it will at least check the security. That's one thing to get around that issue. The other thing we're looking at is maybe highlighting promoted developers. There's certain developers in the community that just constantly put out good stuff. And once you get involved in get involved in Twitter, you will know who these people are. They are very, very smart people. That said, if you're taking an open source product and you are concerned, and it's a very good concern, it's your responsibility to take a look at that code, open it up. If you see someone's code sloppy all over the place, no comments and everything, and you're concerned, it's a very valid point. Don't put it in. But if you see someone has good code that you can follow and read, and you're happy with it, then what you just did is by spending an hour of reading it, you've probably saved yourself a few days, if not a week, writing it yourself. And so that's the way I look at it. It's a trade-off. But if you're not happy, don't put it in. I mean, if you want after, I can point out most of the developers that have put out their stuff on Apex World have been pretty good, but I haven't had a chance to look at all the plugins. Okay, so you guys think that's pretty cool? Yeah, and there's tons of plugins. I showed you one of the fun plugins. There's more boring plugins, but they're very functional. So the next thing I'm going to do is, what happens with some organizations is, let's say an HR organization, they manually enter all the new employees in an Excel sheet, and then they want to upload it into the system. Yes, question?
What's the name of the plugin that you use?
That is a very good question. And the question is, what is the name of the plugin?
Does it handle like multiple parent-child relationships that you work with?
I don't know. You'll have to look at it. The plugin is called D3, Force Network. And the way I filtered it is, if you go on Apex plugins, it's a region type plugin. So I was able to filter it down here by region and then found this. Now, if this plugin doesn't do what you want it to do, this D3 plugin, D3 is this whole library, and you can probably do whatever you want on it in terms of multiple nested relationships. So you can spend the time and write your own if you really wanted to. I think another way to look at it is, sometimes in Apex you write these massive JavaScript libraries with a lot of moving parts. That's what plugin solves, is you can put it all into one contained area and then reuse it across your application and hopefully share it with the community. Yes, through event handling. So in Apex, I won't demo this, but you can come talk to me after, but I'll give you a high level perspective, is especially with UI type plugins, more with JavaScript and jQuery. In jQuery and JavaScript, you can raise your own events, and you can declaratively define those events in Apex. And then on the receiving end, you can try and receive those JavaScript events. So you have to essentially have someone that shouts out the message and someone that's listening for the message. And as long as you know what the base messages are, or like the types of messages, you can work together. Okay, so the last part of this demo, at least on this part, is to show, again, HR person, they don't want to manually enter in a bunch of rows. They get a data sheet. They just, Alberta recovered oil went up to $100 a barrel. We have to hire and hire now. An HR person does not want to go and enter in row by row. You can do tabular forms, but they're really comfortable with Excel. So thankfully, Adrian helped me out with this problem today, and he created an entire Excel sheet of all the employees. So if I open this up, I should have had this open. So we're about to hire you don't really need to know all this data. It's not really relevant. It's the point is we're about to hire the HR person has this list of how many did you put in there? 100 employees. And right now, if you guys are all Oracle developers, you'd probably use something like Data Loader and PL SQL it out and do all this coding and maybe get some things wrong, and it takes time. Thankfully, Apex has this feature called Data Loader. So what we'll do is we'll create a new page. And if you go down here, there's something called Data Loader. And let's just call it Vanog. Again, I'm going to blow through some of this stuff to highlight the functionality that we can do. Hire date. And what Apex is doing here is it's building that entire thing that you would probably have to code in and all the manual stuff you have to code in. It's building a wizard that we can give to the end user, and I'll show you what that looks like. No, we don't need a new column. We're just going to click next. And let's just go to page one. All right, let's hope this works. Sometimes I don't always get it on the first shot. So now the HR person can go to this new data loading wizard, and you can customize this a bit. I'm going to open a file here. Do you remember what it was called, Adrian? Was it data? Okay. I'm going to open this up. I think the separator is comma because every CSV file is different. Again, I've done very little work here. And this is the next step is the really cool part that Apex adds in. Sometimes people move columns around. Apex will detect it based on the column header and try as best as possible. This doesn't always work, but as long as people play within a certain range, Apex will actually do a very good job on this. And here you can see everything seems to line up pretty nicely. I'm going to click next. And this is just a confirmation. It's going to insert. If we had existing employees that all matched up based on the primary key, it would have actually done an update. So sometimes, for some reasons, people like to maintain the master copy in their Excel sheet, and they can just constantly re-add it in, and it will do updates, inserts, and deletes. And I'm going to load the data. So we inserted 100 rows. So let's go back. Remember everything we did at the beginning of this presentation? Now let's see what it looks like with 100 employees. Probably not going to look great, but still a cool point. So here we can see we've got some new jobs coming in. We could still see clerks in accounting are getting paid a lot more. You can now see that staff, I guess this is a new job type, they're pretty well paid, but in research they're getting paid a lot more. If we go into the primary report, this is going to be a mess. Can't read anything, but here you can see there's a lot more employees, and you can just paginate through them. The real cool thing is when we go here. Here you can see all the new numbers, and then this thing's a complete mess. It makes no sense. And I was actually looking to see if there's a way we could blow it up, but I mean, some people might lose this. They might think this is the coolest thing since sliced bread, but this is not really usable at this point, right? You've got to do something else with it and look at the configurations. But it works really well when you have like 10-person company or 15-person company. Still pretty cool. It handled all of that, right? And I did no changes. Like, that's the fun part about Apex.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
The example you just gave was you added 100 employees.
Yeah.
What kind of what's a reasonable amount that you would be able to upload like that? 1,000, 10,000? I mean, there's a limit to how much we would be able to bring in, or no?
The limit, so the question is what limit would we have bringing in data?
If it's over a certain threshold, maybe you go the more traditional route using, some external data pump or whatever.
It might be based on the file size. And the reason why it's a file size is because we're dealing with a web-based technology. If you take like a 5 gig movie and you try and use the standard HTML file upload button, most web servers will cancel that operation. And the reason why is web transactions are supposed to be quick transactions. They're supposed to be 1 second, 2 seconds. And let's say you upload a 10 meg file, that might take 10 seconds. But most web servers will kill your session at a given point. So that's probably your restriction. Every time I've seen these large things or large processing, whether it's a long query or a large data set, most of the time it's because the web server's canceled out before anything else. So it's usually some sort of session timeout thing. Any other questions on this stuff? You guys find that pretty cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question, I mean, you did this for the entire organization.
Yeah.
But we also know that we have departments.
Yeah.
So can you do that just for a department? Then it would make more sense. Because here you're flowing that.
Okay. We're going a bit off script, but so the question is, can we do this for a department? Because there's a lot of information here, right?
Yeah. So isn't that
Just the legend that you click on a department?
I don't think you can filter out of this plugin. Not to say you couldn't do it, but let's just show a very simple way of how you do it, because it's a very good question. Are you guys okay if we go a bit over time? Yeah. What page are we? Okay, let's go to page 1. And let's just create a new page item called P1 depth. And the name is you'll see why I'm doing this. So I'm just going to create this as a select list, and let's just put the list of values. I just want to make sure I got the order right. Display. Oops. It's been a while since I've done this for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, and now I'm going to go back and you notice, by the way, this is a really cool thing with Apex 5 is I'm not going back and forth and saving every change. I can make a ton of changes and then click save. That's a huge difference from Apex 4. The source. So this one, I'm really winging it here. So bear with me on this. Okay. P.no. Did I spell everything right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't need to. I think this should work. So let's just try it. But the concept's the same. And I need to do one other thing. Settings. On change. Do you guys know where it says submit on change? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
You guys see anything that says submit on change? Oh, yes, submit page. Perfect. All right, completely winging this, but let's check the accounting department. And, oh, okay, well, that's how you would do it if you wanted a simple way to do it, right? And this is how, if you're not comfortable with modifying the plugin, but you're comfortable with changing some of your requirements, you could do it. I think I'm missing, and I think I know what this is, but you have to change something in the query, but this is the overall concept of what you do.
I think you have to submit your item in your error.
It is in the query here.
But you have to submit in your region.
No, you don't need to submit the items in session state.
Yeah, you have to submit.
I don't think you know. No, it's in there. It's in session state. Okay. I don't want to keep you guys too long. So let's just talk about, we talked about one part of the future of the internet, but let's talk about the real future of the internet. And as I was talking to you guys before, those that don't have Twitter, the future is actually now. Now, does anyone know what this is and why this is relevant? Hint, this number, none of you guys, no one gets it? Back to the future, there you go. We are in the future. And the way the internet works now, before this used to be this whole fight of are you using .NET or using PHP or using Oracle. No one cares anymore. What people are using are APIs. They're just a set of rules that say when you send me data, this is how I want it, and this is what I'll send back. That's it. Right? You don't care what's behind the scenes, and this is where the internet's going now. Thankfully, or the internet is, and the only reason why it exists, right? Everyone uses different sets of languages. Apex plays very well with these things. And have you guys heard of things like RESTful services or REST? JSON, not the person JSON, but JSON. How many people here of XML? Okay. XML is the old stuff, JSON is the new stuff. That's, again, a simple way of looking at it. If you don't know what JSON is, tonight or tomorrow is a very good day to read about it. It's very simple, but you have to know about these things as developers. I'm trying to keep you guys in the business. And things like, what else? Am I forgetting any other keywords? Well, those are two things, REST, API, like any of those terms that people are throwing out, Apex supports all that. So what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to show you 3 demos. One of them is not live for a very good reason. I'll explain why. The other 2 are live, and let's hope they work, because they work with third-party services, but Apex is tying in. And what it really highlight is how Apex does play with all those other things. So just you never say that, oh, I can't do it because Apex won't allow it. No, Apex allows it. And so the first one is the Nest. Do you guys all know what the Nest thermostat is? It's a thermostat that you can control with your phone or your tablet or your computer. And I tried to give, oh, this is going to suck with the lights on. I'm just going to turn off. Okay, can you guys see this a little better? Okay, it's like a little movie time here. And what this is I tried to do this live before, but the demo I had is so hacked together that it's not really stable in a live environment. So I'm showing, Frank saw me bomb it at Kscope last year, I think. So now I've created a video recording of it. And the important thing is this here on the right, this is an Apex plugin I created, and it's entirely, everything's in Apex. So what you see is not something, like it's not some, like I'm not screenshotting something in, it's live Apex. You can kind of see that it looks like Apex. This is my tablet, and this is the actual Nest. And this is the whole Internet of Things. Apex is a thing on the internet. And what you're going to see, and you'll see why I'm not in videography, because I put my hand, this is not the bad hand movement, but you're going to see my hand cut in. But you're going to see me change things, and you're going to see all those things change at the same time. And that's all done through API. So now I'm setting it from home to away. And it doesn't matter which device I use, you see them all reflect, right, at different times. And this is where my poor videography comes in. I'm changing something on my tablet, but if you pay attention, just kind of look over here. You'll see these numbers change in Apex, and at the same time, you see Apex got it first before the actual Nest device did. And it's all possible through Apex. Does that seem cool to you guys? Okay, can you hit the lights? Okay, next demo. Now we go on to the live demo. So this is where completely bet the farm. And the first thing is the weather. Now, you can write your whole engine for weather, but why? Someone's already done it. So I tied into this thing called Open, I think it's called Open Weather Map. So I want someone, let's start actually with a simple one. Let's look at Vancouver. And I told Frank this joke. This is a live search, so hopefully it works. Wow, surprise, surprise, rain. And when I talking to Frank, when I actually tested this last night, I thought it was broken because all I saw was rain, rain, rain. But let's look at beautiful Calgary in Alberta. And let's see what's out there. Yeah, but at least we have some sun, right? And this is a horrible image for a sun. I don't know why they chose it, but here, you notice how I'm toggling next than previous. This is live data. I actually don't think the service is correct when you compare it to the weather network, but it's live. Now, someone shoot me up just to prove that this is not recorded. Someone shoot me up with a Canadian city. I've hard-coded a Canadian flag in here. Okay. Center of the universe. Should we type in center of the universe or just Toronto? Okay.
Should know already.
Yes, of course. I should have defaulted to Toronto. It's kind of gloom. No one wants to live in Toronto, right? But I lived in Toronto, actually a great city, but everyone likes making fun of it. So here you can see it's going to be snowing out there, and it's probably going to shut down the city because they're going to get about like a centimeter of snow. Any other city? One more city?
Yellowknife.
Yellowknife. Okay.
The screen will freeze.
Yeah.
I think it's together.
It's one word? Okay. I think it got it. Yeah, it's minus 23. It's pretty close. And yeah, like it's cold. So you guys believe me, this is live data, right? I'm not scripting this. Next thing, I need a volunteer. Someone in the, not you, Adrian, because we're going to send a live text message from Apex, right? And I'm telling you this now, I am not going through. There's a way to send text messages where you send an email out to every single carrier in Canada and hope one of them is it. This is not it. I am sending it to a service that specializes in it. Okay, so I need someone to shout out their phone number, right? Someone want to give a phone number? Well, hold on, you don't know your own phone number?
Not his phone.
It's going to be it's got to be a Canadian phone number again. Okay, I'm right. Do you have a little ding on your phone when it will go? Okay, what's the? I hope you're not doing this like your ex-girlfriend or something. Okay. This is live from. Okay, let's hope this goes through. Okay, let's be quiet and listen. We have a lucky winner somewhere?
It's probably not silent.
Yeah. Let me just make sure. I'll just check my logs. This is to prove that it went live. Yeah, it went through. Are you sure this is the right phone number?
Yeah.
Anyone else want to volunteer?
I give you another one.
Okay. You're just shooting on numbers. I love this. Okay, let's try one more. 604, yeah. Are they in this room? Okay. Okay, there we go. Let's do this anyways. We're already halfway through. Adrian, you might want to blank out this part, by the way. Hello again. Okay, I'm sending it. You like know everyone. I got to get to know you. You're the contact man for. So who's the unlucky person on this one? Oh, there we go. So there you go. See, like, just because if you see it on the internet, you can do it in Apex, and that's very important to remember. And I'm using Apex APIs that tie in with REST, that handle JSON. They handle all of that stuff. So don't ever think that you can't do it in Apex.
Martin, I got a quick question. I don't know if you want to answer this or not. Okay, we're dealing with third parties now.
Yep.
And things that we're not responsible for.
Yep.
You know, we're going to send a request and we're going to expect that we get data back.
Yep.
Is there any kind of heartbeat that we can kind of, like, how do we know what if this a third party decides they're going to phone it in? How do we know that our stuff is still working and working as intended?
Okay, very good question. So when this is now outside of Apex, this is RESTful services. So what happens is two things. Is if the service is dead, you'll get an HTTP request error, right? At which point that's your SOL. And it's almost like a PL SQL error, an ORA error, which you just crashes your system because the service doesn't exist. But let's say it does exist, but they're having an error on there. They know that something's down on their end. What they'll do is they'll send back a packet of data. And it may look like this. It may look like in JSON or something. And in there, they'll put messages in there. And if they've written their API properly, you'll have messages that say like service down, service unavailable, or something. And then it's up to you when you write those requests to acknowledge that those errors could happen. And then what would you do in that case? And because how would I say this? If I sent a text message to the service and they were down, but they still had their service up long enough to say, look, we're having system messages, I'd receive a message back, and then I would have to process that and said, you know what, the heartbeat's alive. However, we see an error message and then display it back to the user, or if the error message could say we're down but we've queued a result, then it's up to you to write back to if we go back here on the Apex screen, I just said message sent, right? This is a very quick hack up, but had this been a production application, I would have read the API documentation, see what happens in those cases, and then maybe say to the end user, we'll go and try again in 5 minutes for you automatically and send you a message. This is where things get a little more complicated, but you have to think about that because sometimes they're not always right away. But excellent question.
How do you know who's consuming your stuff?
API keys. So what happens is so this service I use was called Twilio, and they charge for it, and so they have to keep track of it, and you give a unique developer key to every person consuming it, and then they have a lookup table, so every time they get a hit, they log in the lookup table, and that's how they do billing.
That we both got it from the same number. So
Yeah.
that's something where you could actually reply. Like you use it for comparison.
You on this service, so the question is, could you reply to it? By the way, that's not my phone number. That's a registered phone number I have with this service. So if you want to send me a bunch of messages, it's not going to work. But yes, yeah, had I written it, you would send it to this service. They actually consume it, hold it there, and then I myself, as an Apex developer, would have to pull it or set up part of their service to send me a request. So what might happen is, if you want to look at this as a big picture without getting too complicated, is you send in a text to Twilio. That's the company I used. Twilio, the way I set it up, would then send a RESTful request to me because I host my own RESTful service that takes in this message that knows then that you did it, so I don't have to constantly go pull. I get pushed the data. If that makes sense? Okay. By the way, is anyone following these slides live online right now? No? Okay, I was just curious. All right, so just to recap really quickly, you can do a lot of cool things with Apex, and it's valuable for both modes of IT, right? If you're in an organization that's a slow moving, but has to be consistent and secure, et cetera, Apex works in well because it's not taking away from your existing Oracle database. You still get to use Oracle, it still has the power of Oracle, security of Oracle. However, now you can display some front-end things for your end users very quickly. On the second part, if your business is rapidly moving and rapidly developing, Apex can still work within those bounds and use all these cool new tools that I showed you today and a lot more, right? I'm just showing you a very sliver of what it can actually do. So that said, that's the end of the presentation. If you have any, I mean, I'll take some questions with everyone and maybe a bit offline after. Any other questions? Oh yeah, Adrian's got a draw. Did we also mention are you guys going to talk about the K-scope coupon code?